All right, Tim, I feel like I've been saying this forever, and we're going to do a reaction video today to a TikTok. This is Tim and Brian's first reaction video, and it basically says exactly what I've been saying over and over again about the affordability of houses being the worst in history. Not just the cost of a house, not just interest rates, but and we're going to get into the video. So before we do, Tim, you have anything you want to add?
You're telling me that they're not affordable, yet I don't totally agree. You know that.
All right, good. Then let's get your reaction to this video. Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Here we go.
1980, 1990, and 2000, because this is when the boomers were in their 30s, depending on when they were born, compared to us millennials today. Housing prices, $48K, $76K, $105,000. Interest rates, 13.7, 10%, 8%. Principal and interest on those with a 20% down payment, $446, $534, $616. Average rent, $243, $447, and $602. Median household income, $21,000, $30,000, $42,000. Why am I sharing all this? Because collectively, no matter when you were born, boomers, whether you were born in the 40s, 50s, or 60s,
boomer,
you were spending on average about 18% of your income on rent and or housing. Just 18%. And I will say in the 1980s, the older boomers in 1980, with those high interest rates, you were spending about 25% of your income, so you felt a little pressure. But if you didn't want to buy a home, you could rent for just 14% of your income. Now let's fast forward to today. The millennials in their 30s, 2023, the average home is $436, the average rent is $2,000, interest rates are 7.5%, and the average income for a median household is $81,000. So to own a house, which you couldn't even qualify for this house, by the way, but it'd be 36% of a family's income. And if they were forced to rent, it's 29%. 1980,
all right, let me go to the last slide there if I can do this. Does TikTok allow you to slide and pause? Sure. All right, there we go. We slid and paused. All right, Tim, so this is what I've been saying. There was another chart that I pulled up in one of the previous videos we did where we talked about the cost of housing being, and I don't know what it is because it's not updated, but it was like over 8.5 times the median income. And we did make a point that even what's left over after the 36% is more than what's left over in 1980. As far as like whatever, because I think some of it's doesn't totally scale. You know what I mean? Like, so I would say like the cost of milk the other day was like $2.50 at Walmart. I think milk was probably $2.50 in 1990. You know what I mean? Like gas is like what, $4 a gallon? It was $4 a gallon 10, 15 years ago. So
and Brian, there's some issues here. I mean, honestly.
All right, do you want me to leave this slide up? Do you want to
leave the slide for right now?
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to see 10-year increments. So don't go from 10 years, 10 years, 10 years, and then go 23 years up. I mean, honestly, it does skew it. I mean,
well, 2010 we were in that housing crash.
Okay.
So it wasn't a normal market, but either way, you're still just looking at a percentage based on average income, average house price, right?
Yeah, except people were still buying houses and rates.
They are today.
And they are today. In 2020, rates were, what were rates? 2.75, Brian?
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah. So the point is that this is today, 2023, things are out of whack. 2020, it was actually probably skewed in the other direction because the income was still the 81. It was probably $80,000 or whatever, but and then the percentage was probably more like 20% because interest rates were 3%.
It's all a point of time, number one. Number two, interest rates aren't 7.5, Brian. I mean, look, you can get considerably less. It just depends upon how you approach it, what kind of cash you're putting down, et cetera. Number three, honestly, we're looking at things totally different. We're looking at cost of things are substantially less. Your TV that you bought, your computer, your laptop computer that you own today, what's it, $800?
I buy Chromebooks that are $150, and yes, okay. I bought a 75-inch 4K TV on Black Friday for $450.
Okay, all right, but regardless, what I'm saying is his numbers are not 100% adding up. Okay,
they're adding up. I think you're making the point that, and this is what I just said. Other things cost less money, so the $81,000 stretches farther in other areas of your life.
Right.
But the point is, the house itself, the housing costs are exorbitant in comparison to the income right now being 36%. And that's pre-tax income, by the way. That's the other thing that people aren't even... If you were to go after tax income, it's probably over 50%.
But you have to do the same thing with going all the way back. And remember, tax rates were substantially higher in 1980s. Remember that Reagan years? Remember Ronald Reagan came in and said, let's cut those taxes, let's cut income taxes,
Yep.
let's get people more affordable. I mean,
Yep.
Brian, it's apples to oranges. It really is. I get it. It is hard to buy a house. I get it. It is a challenge. I bought my first house in '84. My interest rate was 18%.
How much was the house?
$75,000. Now,
Yeah.
How much did I make income-wise? Ask me that, Brian.
How much did you make, Tim?
$21,000.
How much did you make the year after?
Okay, I made like $28,000.
How much did you make the year after?
36. My point is,
Really?
I scrapped the shit out of myself. My point is, look, the numbers don't always add up. Number one, number two, your first house is going to be a bear, man. It's going to be a challenge. You're going to need to get a second job.
But even if you're buying your fourth house right now, it's a challenge. And I'm seeing this. I'm seeing houses that I'm selling right now. The buyers are struggling. I literally just had a deal last night. They offered $30,000 under the asking price. Okay. My guy's like, no, I'm not doing it. So here's what I said to the agent. It's $435,000 house. They offered $405,000. I said, listen, it's a brand new house. Basically, he flipped it from the tip of the roof to the basement. All the insulation's new. All the siding is new. All the windows are new. The HVAC is new.
What did he pay for the house?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's a flip house, right? So my point is, I told the lady, I said, listen, you go buy a different house, your electric bill is probably going to be $150. So what's the difference between $30,000 in today's rates? Like $200 a month?
Probably $240.
All right, $250 a month. So, I said your electric bill is probably $150 less in a brand new house versus one with the old busted HVAC and all the insulation's old. And then rates are going to go down. If rates go down just 0.5%, you'll probably be able to save at least $250. If they go down 1%, 2%, back down to a reasonable 5.5%, you're going to be well ahead. What you cannot do is refinance out of a new house. You can't. Like if you buy an old house that's need a bunch of repairs versus buying a new one, refinancing is not going to solve that problem. You're still in an old house that has an old HVAC, an old roof, and old windows, and all the maintenance is going to be there. And I tried to make the point, but they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. And I have another house I'm selling, and the buyers were like, they're that close, but they're like, oh, we don't want to go over this payment. People are starting to really resist not overpaying, but even paying like top dollar for stuff right now and going past their budget. They're feeling the pinch. The payment is now causing people to say no.
Well, I'm gonna point two things out to you. You said something real important, okay? Remember, it's all perspective. Today's rate is 6.75, 7%, right? And we just said next year rates we expect to be in the fives. So my point Brian, it's all perspective, man. That's my point. You can't just say, oh, it's 7.5%, it's not affordable. It's all in the timing. That's number one. Now, number two, I'm going to make.
But if you got to buy a house today, it's not affordable.
You know what? Fine, don't buy a house today. But I'm going to tell you something important.
The point he was making is if you don't buy a house today, what's your alternative?
Well, here's the key.
Rent. And rent is just as bad.
You know what?
If not worse.
Life is a struggle, and yes, you do have to make some adjustments. But I'm going to point something out to you. You buy a house today, and it continues to go up in value. The house is also an investment, right? And you and I have talked about this. Housing is an investment in the long term. It's a savings account investment, number one. It's a tax benefit, number two. And it's appreciation, number three. All three pieces go into play. So, you know what? Sometimes you buy something as an investment. It's not always going to be, equal to your housing. It might be a bit more, but you're getting so much more for the money, right? And here's something I want you really to think about, okay? And this is real huge, okay? Yes, it's tough, but I'll tell you the other story is I'm kind of challenged. Ready? Here's where I'm challenged. I'm challenged that everybody expects to get full price for their house. Do you remember years ago when you listed the price for 435 and there was some negotiation?
We already dropped the price.
Okay. All right. But my point is, we're going back to the old market, man. That's all. Brian, it's just the old market. Now I'm going to pose a different theory to you, and this is going to throw you off a little bit. You ready?
Okay.
The concept of equity harvesting. Yes, equity harvesting. Have you heard of that concept before?
We're talking about using the equity in your house to make financial decisions.
And so I have clients who struggled and bought their first house in 2019 for 125 and 150, and it was a stretch for them then. Okay, and today they're selling it for 275 because it's going up in value. They're selling their house. They're walking away with like 125, Brian. They're paying their debt off.
No, I mean, I think we're making the argument of whether or not it's better to rent or buy. I don't disagree with you. I think it is. If you have, I mean, because you're looking at it as $2,400 versus $2,000. I would argue that the $2,400 house is not even equivalent. It's probably nicer than the $2,000 a month rent house. And I would say that if you're planning on staying there at least 4 years, it would make more sense to own a house. Financially, you'll probably be in a better position, considering the fact if you do have to sell it, there's fees involved. We're talking about like breaking even.
You brought something real important. You said if I'm going to rent for $2,000 and I'm going to buy for $2,400, I'm not going to say that housing is not hard. Look, $22,000 in rent is not affordable.
I know, but that's the point, though. The point is not rent versus buy. The point is buy now versus buy any other time in our lifetime. And it is, in comparison to the median income, the cost of housing is the highest that it has ever been. So it is a pinch on everyone. And the cost of milk being $2 doesn't offset the $2,400 mortgage for $436,000.
Okay, but the offset is all of the other benefits that we have in today's society. School,
it still makes sense to buy a house, Tim. But what I know, but what I'm saying is, it's essentially 36% after taxes is essentially 50% of your income. Like if you get a paycheck and half of it goes to paying your mortgage, that is more than it's ever been, and it's a burden on many people, and it's causing this disgusting housing market that we're in right now. So we just talked about this in the last video. Mortgage applications are 28-year low.
Down even more.
Yeah.
By the way.
So is this, so you've been doing this since 1984 or whatever. Is this the worst for a mortgage guy that you've ever seen it?
No.
No? When was the worst?
In the 90s, when interest rates went from like 7 to 10% in like 45 days, dude, it was insane. But here's my point. Regardless, people have bought back in the 90s and stretched the.
Let's take your premise, Tim, that you still should buy a house if you're faced with the option. Let's leave that on the table and say, okay, you should buy a house even though it's expensive. But discussing what I'm trying to do is just create some perspective in comparison to the past 30 or 40 years of buying a house. How do we fit in? How is it in comparison to all those other times?
Yeah, what's happened is housing is going up, other expenses have come down. I'm just going to call it what it is.
Okay.
People are healthier. People are, they have food on the table. They've got groceries. They got a roof over their head. Utilities.
Cars are not. Yeah, utilities have maintained, but cars have gone way up.
Well, it depends.
No, that's and we could do another video on that. That's just a fact.
Because you and I both know, you ready? People own cars they shouldn't own. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. Look, so here's the thing: 8% of cars, and I could be wrong here. I think 8% of cars are under $50,000 right now. If you look at the cost of cars over the past 5 years, they have shot up exponentially, and it was the same thing with the housing market because people were getting 0% interest rates. It was like, why not finance a $70,000 car? And the car company was like, well, if we can get $70,000 for a $45,000 car, let's just charge $65,000-$70,000.
But my other point is why do you need a new car, Brian?
I'm not saying that that's true. I'm just saying that the cost of cars has gone up. The cost of houses has gone up. And you had said, like, depending on how you slice it and dice it, we are in a miniature recession right now because I think housing alone could be a big factor. Housing is, what is it, like 30% of our economy?
It is. It is. But you know what? On the other side of the coin, Brian, and I hate to say this, everybody talks about, oh, this is a recession. This is a silent depression. You know what I mean? But you know
Okay.
what? That's what it is. It's a, ready? It's a silent laziness.
Correction.
Laziness. Yes, because you know what? When times were tough, you know, back in the '80s, I know now I'm like I sound like the old guy. We used to walk through, 10 feet of snow to get to school, right? No, my point of the matter is look, you know what? When we needed extra money, you know what we did? We got a part-time job. I mean, I delivered for Domino's Pizza. I remember this day. I worked at a bar cleaning up people's throw up in the bathrooms. Dude, I've done it all. My point, I painted people's houses. My point of the matter is, look, you know what? We need to get back out there and hustle. We need to get out there and make a difference. We need to be out there. And everybody wants to know, how can I buy a house with no money out of pocket, no money down? I want free money. Brian, pay me to buy this house. You know what? Life's tough. Get over it. Okay? It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? It's a journey. So my 100% belief is, yeah, houses are tough. And then, yes, housing in general, rent or ownership, is definitely difficult. I don't think it's unaffordable. Okay, I think that's the difference. It's also, I'm going to pose one other question to you, Brian. You ready? Depends on where you want to live. I mean, you want to live in Huntingtown, in Calvert County, or are you willing to live in, Lusby, White Sands, right? I mean, think about it. I'm serious. It's
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
It's all in your perspective. So, my philosophy is I want to show clients how they can get into a home with the best combination of all programs and things. I get the affordability piece. My goal is to build them financially now so they can have long-term wealth. And when rates come down, they're going to jump in and go for it, man. I'm serious. And people are calling you right now saying, Brian,
I wish these were all, hey, listen, I saw your video. I'm ready to sell my house. Unfortunately, that's not what this one is.
I think it is. I think you're
but
yes.
All right, Tim. Well, I appreciate your perspective. I think that in some ways this sort of vindicates, both of what we've been saying, that it's still a good idea to buy a house if you can afford one financially. It's still a smart investment, and it's still affordable if you're willing to reset your expectations. Yeah. And it's going to be painful, but it's still doable. Like if you want to compare this to all the other times in history, people couldn't have average jobs and afford a huge air-conditioned structure for their family like they can today. So if you want to use that perspective,
you've got air conditioning, Brian. I mean,
but at the same time, I would say it is reasonable to consider the fact that throughout the past 30 or 40 or 50 years, the cost of housing is now exponentially more on a percentage basis, and also becoming a burden, and it's becoming it's causing friction. I really feel it. I see it. I see people that are trying to buy houses that are having a very hard time mentally dealing with it. And it's like I had said last week, the settlements that we did in 2020, everybody was happy and high-fiving, and now some of that luster is gone because everybody's feeling the pinch. So that's it, man. It is what it is.
There you go, man. Let's make it happen.
All right, Tim.
I'll talk to you, man.
I appreciate you, man.